All right, good morning. I'm Sandra.
I'm John.
Today we have a special lecture for you. It's going to be a little bit different. We're actually going to have short interviews about God, bridging Spiritism and 21st century thoughts. So I'm actually going to be interviewing John along with modern day visionaries. But before we get started, for those of you who don't know John and I, we've known each other for about 17 years. We've been on a spiritual journey most of our lives, and we've gone to probably 150,000 workshops, little exaggeration. Some were great, some were not so great. But the bottom line is that we have open-minded skepticism. In other words, we're just open to new information, but we have good discernment because after all, our experiences are what dictate what we actually really know within us. So we've been studying Spiritism for about 5 years now. John and I started almost at the same time, and we were lucky enough to land in conscious living. So we're very excited about that. So let's get started. We're going to try to share some of our knowledge from Spiritism, some of our knowledge from all the world visionaries, and some of our own thoughts. Here. See if this works. All right, so here in this slide, we're going to see some of the speakers that we're going to bring in today. So Spiritism is really a wonderful study that helps our evolve and expand our consciousness. But there are other philosophers, other mediums, other scientists that actually bring great advice, consultation, and information to us. So today, in today's mock interviews, and there are going to be several of them, we're going to speak with some of these. Thomas Campbell on the far left over there, Teal Swan over here on the right. You may know some of these, you may not know some of these, but what we're going to try to do is give you just enough information that if you're curious enough, you'll research them. So the other thing is that in Spiritism, one of the things that John and I found was that the language is back in the 19th century language, and John had a lot of suffering problems with the language.
That's true. That's true.
So, but if we can get beyond the language, we're going to see that the information that we're receiving is actually quite similar. And the message is always for us to evolve, to leave behind our fears, our ego, our anger, and to eventually become what we define as love. So just to give you a very quick example of the differences in language, Tom Campbell over there, he's one of my favorites today, so you'll be hearing about him. He is a nuclear physicist, and he speaks a lot in computer language, so it's a virtual reality, it's a physical reality. So he tells us, you know, if I told you 50 years ago or even 20 years ago that all of your information, your emails, your photos were going to be in the cloud, you would have said, you're crazy. But I think most of us now in this audience actually understand that. We don't still quite know where the cloud is, but we know that we can access our information from just about any computer or cell phone. This is a wonderful age of information. So, the way that we decided to do this lecture was by using the 6 main principles, Spiritist principles by Divaldo Franco. And most of us here know that Divaldo Franco is a prominent Spiritist speaker and medium in today's world. And he tells us that the 6 principles are the belief in God, belief of immortality of the soul, the belief in reincarnation, the communicability of the spirits, in other words, mediumship, divine justice, and the belief in the gospel of Jesus, which highlights the love of God, love of our neighbors, and love of ourselves. So I want to tell you this so that you can keep in mind as we're moving along the reasons that we chose these. So we're going to begin by defining Spiritism according to the Spirit's book by Allan Kardec in 1857. And it says, we will say that the principle of the Spiritist doctrine, or Spiritism, is based on the relationship between the material world and the invisible world, the latter being inhabited by spirits. All right, so let's get started. Good morning, USA. This is CLSG FM radio station broadcasting live from Miami, Florida. Welcome, Dr. JR. Thank you for accepting our invitation to talk today. Can I call you JR?
Sure. It's funny. I'm not a chiropractor, and most of my chiropractor friends insist that I call them doctor.
All right. So, JR, sounds good. So, our first principle is going to be the belief in God. We know that all spiritualists and modern-day visionaries believe in God, even if they refer to God with a different name, such as Allah, universal consciousness, source. But let's see, what does Allan Kardec tell us in the Spirits book? He asks the question to the spirits, what is God? Not who is God, but what is God? And the answer the spirits give us is, God is the supreme intelligence, the first cause of all things. So JR, what do you think about this?
Well, it's kind of interesting. There are so many philosophers that have their own explanation of God, and it's also interesting that many of the spiritual speakers have one thing in common. As they grow up, they go through tremendous trials. Wayne Dyer is one of these speakers. He recently died. And during his childhood, his father left the family, and they suffered greatly, and he always had contempt for his father. He held that contempt.
That's okay. Sorry.
He held that contempt for years and years, until finally, one day at his father's grave, he started to cry, and he cried and he cried. And he realized the only reason he got to where he was today is because his father left the family, and he got rid of that contempt and anger. Wayne has authored many books, and he's lectured all over the world. He's had Oprah as a personal friend, and in addition, he gave me 3 places that I placed on my bucket list of where I'd like to visit. Assisi in Italy, Lourdes in France, and Medjugorje in Bosnia. Wayne discovered that even in the many, many, many languages in the world, there is a common sound for the word of God, no matter what language he found, and that common sound is Ah.
So JR, how about if we invite Wayne Dyer to tell us a little bit about the names of God and about the sound of Ah?
What a great idea.
And he said that there are 2 sounds to think about. One sound is the sound of creation. And the sound of creation, it's interesting, he encouraged me to look up the names that we have come up with throughout history for the Creator, for what we call the Creator. But as I looked up the name for the Creator in all of the different traditions in the world, ancient and modern, civilized, uncivilized in quotations, Eastern and Western, contemporary, and so on, I came up with 30 names for the Creator. And I was told that the sound will be in all of them. So listen to these names and see if you can hear a sound that they all share. The name for the Creator for the left-hand side of the room. Ra, Krishna, Rama, Buddha, Wakantanka, Adonai, Brahma, Siddha, Ahura Mazda, Shiva, Jehovah, Mahio, Kami-sama, Nagyo, Kali Durga, Ta, Sukmad, Gayana, Mahanta, Mahavira, Anu, Koda, Akua, Atma, Nanak, Asambula, Yahweh, God, Atum, Allah. And what is the sound that is with each and every one of these? Sound of Ah. This sound of creation, the sound of Ah, is the sound of God. And it is a vibration like everything else that is mediation between the world of matter and the world of spirit.
That was really interesting.
Why don't we allow our listeners to experience the sound of God?
Before that, I wonder if our audience was able to capture what he said at the very end. He said that Ah is the vibration for the mediation between the world of matter and the world of spirit. That sounds familiar. We just read that the definition of Spiritism was the relationship between the material world and the invisible world. JR, I think we've got something going here.
Sounds interesting. Let's do it.
All right, so let's see if we can fill the room with the sound and the vibration of God. So, all of you listeners out there, put your left hand on your heart, and we're going to fill the room with the sound of Ah for 3 times. So we're going to go about you, but that felt amazing.
It's incredible. It's said that just the sound alone can raise your energy and raise your vibration.
Well, I hope our listeners out there are feeling the vibration. All right, the next subject is going to be the immortality of the soul. So to begin with, we know that most spiritualists adopt this belief. Immortality of the soul basically means that our soul continues to exist after death, beyond the physical body. In other words, life after life. There really does not exist. Death does not exist. And in fact, try to imagine if there was no immortality of the soul, that we just vanished once our bodies died. That wouldn't make any sense. Our lives would be purposeless. Our relationships would be purposeless. Poof, 1 minute we're here. Poof, 1 minute we're gone. I don't know. I believe in immortality of the soul. So, in fact, my friend Tom Campbell that I was talking about, he calls this living physical matter reality a virtual reality, that the real reality is our soul and our consciousness. So on a side note, not everybody believes not everybody believes that immortality of the soul and reincarnation come together. So Catholics, for example, they do believe in immortality of the soul, but not necessarily in reincarnation. I think the phone is ringing. We have a caller.
Better answer.
Hello, this is CLSG FM radio station. Thank you for calling in, David. What is your question for JR?
Well, thank you, Sandra, for taking my call, first of all. I have a question about would hypnosis and near-death experience help demonstrate immortality of the soul?
What a great question. Let's just repeat what he asked so that the audience can hear. Would hypnosis and near-death experiences help demonstrate the immortality of the soul? JR, what do you think?
That brings to mind a fellow called Rich Martini.
What a delicious name. Can you tell us a little bit about him?
With a name like Martini, he has to be good. Rich is a contemporary journalist, actor, film producer, and filmmaker. He created a film about Buddhism in Tibet. His connection with immortality came when a good friend of his died. However, before she died, she told him what would happen to her after she died. And after she died, her spirit came to visit him and took his spirit to the classroom that she described that she would be teaching in after death. His humorous, inquisitive, and skeptical nature makes his presentations believable and entertaining.
So what do you say we invite Rich Martini to say a few words about immortality of the soul, hypnosis, and near-death experience?
Great.
You know, if you could make a pill, then you pay the university to figure that out. So it's very difficult for us to fund a study in hypnosis. And I went, okay. And then I shifted my focus away from hypnosis, per se, to near-death studies. Because the premise would be, if people under hypnosis are seeing another lifetime or another realm, then therefore, someone who has a near-death experience, they may be experiencing the same realm, just as a matter of logic, right? So I thought, let me start examining near-death studies. Aha, wait, one more second. I'm going to ask people who've had a near-death experience to do a between-life session, to do a hypnotherapy session where they can re-examine the journey, what happened to them, even if it happened when they were 5 years old. Hypnosis can do that. Meditation can do that. All right? The thing that's really magical about the brain is there is no delete key.
Let's talk.
Wait.
Oops.
JR and I, we have this language between us. All right, let's thank Rich Martini for coming. I mean, that was awfully nice.
I didn't see any martinis though.
Right. So anyway, what were you going to say?
Let's talk a little bit more about reincarnation.
All right, good idea. So, this is our principle number 3, the belief in reincarnation. And we realize that at some point we're going to have every experience that exists. We're going to be rich, we're going to be poor, we're going to be a man, we're going to be a woman, we're going to be all different races. And the wonderful thing about all of this is that reincarnation gives us the opportunity to learn and or make up for our mistakes from the past. So according to the Spiritist doctrine, the souls are born, we're created simple and ignorant, and we learn through successive reincarnations. The good news is that everything that we learn, all of our attributes, our moral consciousness, we don't lose that. So even though it might seem like we are not having a great life, the truth is that we are constantly progressing, we are constantly learning. So, JR, have you heard of Thomas Campbell?
Oh, that's the fellow that discovered Campbell's soup?
Yeah, right, John. Come on. No, he's the guy, the nuclear physicist that I've been talking about. So he's a really interesting guy, by the way. So he is a nuclear physicist, but when he got his master's degree back in 1968 in physics, he was having terrible insomnia, and he was living in Irvine, California. So he was walking down the street one day and he saw a flyer that said, Transcendental Meditation, $20, will help with blah, 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 insomnia. And so Thomas Campbell said, hey, $20, if it doesn't work, I only lost $20, but if it works, man, that was the best $20 I've ever spent. So he went. And when he went into the Maharishi yogis, called every single person in one at a time and gave them a mantra, which he laughs about now because he says maybe it was everybody had the same mantra, but they thought it was very secret. And he meditated for 20 minutes, and he had truly a transcendental experience. So he became obsessed with meditation. He would meditate 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes at night, and about 4 months later, he realized that he was being able to access information, computer code for the U.S. Army intelligence that he was working for at the time. So, to make a long story short, he also worked with Bob Monroe for out-of-body experiences, and he himself has had all of these experiences, and he's been studying consciousness ever since. He worked for NASA, he's retired now, and he wrote a book, a trilogy, which I'm actually reading. It's 800 and some pages if you don't like to read. It's called My Big Toe, My Big Theory of Everything. And he marries philosophy, metaphysics, and physics. That reminded me of Spiritism, which marries religion, philosophy, and science. So he's a really interesting man, and he does speak a little bit in internet language. So like I said, he speaks about virtual realities and data streams. So past lives are data streams that we can access. So JR, should we invite him?
Let's do it now.
There is a whole reality frame, a virtual reality frame that's designed just for transitions. That's what they do there. That's their job. And people who are transit, they basically are are met,
Is that on?
they're guided, and mostly what's being done is they're being set at ease. Relax, everything's okay, you're where you're supposed to be, yes, everything's fine, you know. You are approached about another incarnation, about what it is you need to do. The idea that you're trying to learn and grow, if you are aware enough, if you've been through this enough times that you kind of, oh yeah, all right, I get it, then you will get to a place where they will work with you on what do you want to do next? What do you need to work on? Where do you think your problems are? And if you go, well, I don't have any problems, they will show you what your problems are and what you have to do next. That's what some of those databases are for. They'll take you and they'll run those databases and they'll say, well, look here, you see this where you gave this guy the finger when he, pulled in front of you, that wasn't nice, and you need to you have an anger management problem, you have this ego problem, and you'll go basically through a review. If you don't know the answers, they'll help you find them. You will see where your problems are, and there is no escaping. It's not like you can say, oh, well, that's not true, that didn't happen. They've got you good to right, and you know it. Which is part of this question. If you know about the larger reality, if you understand how things work, you're better at playing the game than you are if you're totally clueless. So that's why this kind of understanding is really helpful, because it can help you interpret your experiences. Why is this happening to me? You start looking for your lessons. You start realizing that growing and the choices you make are very important, instead of just going through life like a zombie, doing whatever you do because you're doing it.
I don't know about you, JR, but that kind of sounds like no solar.
I'm always amazed that truth, no matter where it comes from, kind of converges. When did he give this presentation?
This one was actually in 2010, but he's constantly giving new workshops. In fact, I'm attending one in May.
So it's nice to see contemporaries having same things that we're learning that have been introduced to us in the 1800s.
Exactly. All right, so our next principle is going to be the communicability of spirits. In other words, mediumship and channeling. So spiritists believe in communication with the spirits. In fact, they form mediumship groups that are mostly held in order to help lower spirits or spirits who are a little bit confused during transition, like we just heard Thomas Campbell tell us. So one of the things that John and I sort of laugh a little bit is that they don't have an on-demand channel like we do on TV. We put the channel that we want. They basically tell us in the mediumship group, you can't just call on Mama Teresa. She's not going to come. Maybe one day we're going to be lucky and we're going to have a higher spirit come in and give us a good advice, or just praise us a little bit and tell us we're doing a good job. But really, the mediumship group with the spiritists is to help other spirits. We have another caller. This is very exciting. So, hello, this is CLSG-FM radio station. Thank you for calling in, Veronica. What is your question for JR?
Hi, thanks for taking my call. The program is fantastic, guys. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I have a question. Would the Akashic Records be a form of mediumship? How about psychics? Where do they get their information from?
Thank you for the question, Veronica. We're going to repeat it so the audience out there can hear it. Veronica asked us, would the Akashic Records be a form of mediumship? How about psychics? Where do they get their information from? JR, can you help us with this?
I think I can. For those of us who are unfamiliar with the Akashic Records, they're the records of everything that is, was, and will be. It can be accessed many ways. Edgar Cayce went into deep meditation and connected with the Akashic Records. I use a prayer that connects me energetically with the Akashic Records. They give you advice that's in your soul's best interest. You still have free will, and it is only advice. Spiritism, remember, Spiritism says we're all mediums and get all kind of messages from the other side. We just have to listen, ask, and practice. By learning at our center, we become better at this connection. What I like about Spiritism is that once you make a connection and get information from the other side, it may come from highly evolved good spirits or mean and nasty low-level spirits. As we raise our frequency, become enlightened, and resolve our own problems, we attract the best spirits and can better help spirits in need. Thank you, CLSG, for our enlightenment and for helping us connect with the other side.
So can I ask you, JR, are the Akashic records only our records, or can we access the Akashic records of everybody?
In order to access another person's records, you need their permission. You can access your own records, but all of us, it's like a private connection that we have. The method that I use is energetic, but it can be used with meditation. Akashic records have been around for ages. They've been mentioned in old texts all over the world.
Interesting. So the database does exist out there.
Yeah, imagine there's a cloud before there was a cloud. It's incredible.
All right, so since we weren't able to speak much to Teal Swan, let's move on to her next question, which is about psychics and where do they get their information from. I think almost everybody has heard of John Edward, this man here. He's actually quite famous. He's an international psychic medium and also a television personality. So he knew that he was a psychic from the time he was a little boy. He has an interesting story also. JR, do you think that we should ask him? There's an interview with Oprah, which is excellent.
Any presentation that has Oprah on it, I'd like to see.
The other side. And I act as that conduit, like a bridge, and I bring through their information. So it's like they beam me their energy, I interpret it in my frame of reference, and I pass it on to the person that I'm sitting with.
Okay, I think it's interesting that you use the term energy, because recently we did a show called The Secret. You know all about that.
Well, yeah. Very well.
And that in that show we were talking about the fact that we all are just energies vibrating frequencies, and you're saying that people or whatever life form it is in on the other side is also an energy, and that their energies come through you. Why you?
I think why me, one reason is that I am a teacher by nature. So I think that's one of the main reasons that I've been given this opportunity, because I treat it as what it is. For me, I'm educating people about the energy of where they're at in their life and maybe how this can actually help them. It's about the empowerment that somebody can get from it as they move forward as a result of that pivotal moment.
That pivotal moment, because you think people are stuck in the moment where the people pass.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right now, we're all physical beings.
Yeah.
And our soul, the energy of that soul is inside this vehicle. Well, when that vehicle ceases, for whatever reason, the driver, the soul, gets out and still, as far as I'm concerned, in my belief system, is able to exist. So what happens to the vehicle, the car, the body, doesn't affect the soul or the consciousness. So we're talking about the survival of consciousness and that energy, that love that we're connecting with.
Okay, so where are all these people
Where?
that you're talking to from the other side?
It's really funny because
Yeah.
one of the examples that I was given from my own guides, energies that I work with, was that it's like, where's the internet? You know, it's like, where is the internet? It's like, it's this place that's out there that we all talk about and know about, and we communicate, but you can't go there with a physical body, but you need a conduit in some way to actually exchange that energy.
Which is your computer.
Which is your computer.
Yeah. We all say that, though. Haven't you said that when you send an email? Where the hell did it go? Where is it out there? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so do you see these energies?
I do not see them. For me, I'm clairvoyant, clairaudient, and clairsentient, and what that means is that I see, hear, and feel this energy, and I interpret what it is that it is in my experience. So, for example, if I'm seeing something, I don't see them the way I'm seeing the audience or yourself. I don't hear them the way we're able to communicate. It's kind of like having a daydream. You know when you're daydreaming, and it's a very, very real experience? That's what it's like, except I'm conscious that I'm daydreaming. So I quiet my mind through meditation and prayer, and then I pay attention to what I'm thinking, what I'm hearing, and what I'm feeling. And it's as if I'm being impressed with this energy. So it's not coming from me, it's coming from outside of me.
Well, how do you know? Because, you know, I'm being the skeptic here for all the people. How do you know that the energy that's coming through you is their particular relative? I mean, because nobody's dressed in outfits, so how do you know?
I actually don't. If anybody in this audience right now said, we can have a reading, you're gonna immediately come up with your list of people, your top 10, your top 2, that you wanna absolutely positively hear from. And then the reality is, you wanna hear from mom, and I start trying to connect with you, and I'm giving you information, and you're like, no. But what you're thinking is, no, that's not my mom. in reality, I'm connecting with your ex-mother-in-law who's passed, who didn't like you in life, and you're thinking, I don't want to talk to her. Like, why is she coming through? If you've got children, or if you're still married to her son, or you still have a connection to the family, she'll see you as the way to get a message across.
Are all the so-called people from the other side, are they always there?
I don't believe that they're always around us 24/7. I mean, do you want them around you 24/7?
Well, I was wondering, you walking around, you're never alone.
You know, because people always say, they always ask me, it's like, are they always around? Like, you know, they're concerned with things about, you know, us emotionally, spiritually. They're concerned about our growth, our moving forward, our learning. I mean, this to me, as far as I'm concerned, is the classroom of life. And we're evolving.
I get all that, but where are they?
They are.
Where do they say they are? I mean, certainly, if you can communicate with them, you've asked them, hey, where are you?
I have actually asked them. And we call it the other side. Some people refer to it hereafter. They call it the great beyond. Some people call it heaven. And whenever I get somebody really loud coming through, I'll be like, well, what do you do? Do you have houses? Do you have jobs? Like, you know, do you eat? You know, do you have to count carbs? Like, what's the deal? Like, what's the... And what I get back, honestly, quite honestly, is that they don't care about my questions. They care about talking to the person that's sitting in front of me, because they've got to lower their frequency, and it takes a lot of energy to do that, and they want to get their message across.
Again, that sounds so much like Spiritism.
I found this clip so incredible because, number one, I've seen John Edwards give Kim Kardashian information that made her cry right on TV. Any guy that gives information like that must have good information. But he asked the question, where is the other side? Where is the other side? Well, it's 2017. It's 2017. Did you know that through science, through mathematics, through physics, through the Hubble Space Telescope, with probes that we've sent past Pluto into interstellar space, we can most assuredly say, number one, the universe is 13.8 billion years old. 13.8 billion years old. Give or take a few billion years. Secondly, of the billions of stars, billions of galaxies, trillions of planets, it only makes up 0.1% of all the matter in the universe. How they calculate it, I don't know, but they do calculate it. So all that we see is only 0.1%. 5% of the matter in the universe is interstellar dust. Dust that floats around, comes together and makes up new planets and new stars. 68% of the universe is dark energy. We don't know what it is, yet it expands our galaxy, expands our universe at a speed of light that goes over a cosmic horizon and disappears. They know that now. So can you imagine our universe is expanding so fast, faster than the speed of light, and then disappears? If that's not enough, 27% of the universe is dark matter. What is dark matter? They've quantified it, but it doesn't absorb, reflect, or emit light. If two pieces of dark matter come together, they just pass through each other. So it's responsible for gravity, and gravity is one of the key things that creates our universe. I was so excited when I saw this, because I go, where is the other side? What about cosmic fluid being dark matter? And what about the other side being dark energy? What if the other side is here all the time? We only can account for 0.1%. So I thought that was pretty interesting.
That is interesting. Let's call Susana. Ring, ring, ring.
Hello?
Susana, what do you think dark matter is? Do you think it's cosmic fluid like Spiritists do?
Well, what we know in Spiritism is that the universal cosmic fluid is the primitive, the matter that gives rise to everything in the universe. So, who knows? Maybe.
I say it
Who knows?
sounds quite similar to me.
But everyone always asks, where's the other side? What if it was here all along?
Thank you, Susana, for answering that call. The fifth principle is divine justice. This one is a wonderful, wonderful principle because basically it's kind of like our Federal Education Act. No child left behind. The Spiritists believe the same thing. God's justice is immense, and it doesn't matter how long it takes us towards unconditional love. We're all going to get there. We can take as long as we want, or we can go as slowly as we want. In fact, sometimes we can just stand still if we want. But eventually, with God's mercy and divine justice, we all graduate. John, what do you think about the law of progress?
Thank God for the law of progress. Imagine if we had the ability to go backwards and regress. Thank God God put together a plan that we may stop progress for a while, but we will eventually get there. Thank goodness.
Well, I'd like to I'd like to invite Pope Francis. I really like him. I believe he's a true inspiration in the 21st century, and I feel that we're blessed, that God has blessed us with his presence.
Happen. He then reflected on the differences between human and divine justice.
La misericordia de Dios es lo que hace que se cumpla la verdadera justicia. La justicia humana solamente limita el mal, no lo vence, no lo hace desaparecer. La justicia divina, en cambio, supera el mal contraponiéndolo al bien.
Pope said that God continually offers his forgiveness and helps people to accept it because he desires our eternal happiness.
See what I mean? I love it that God desires our eternal happiness. How can we go wrong with that? So moving right along, our last principle is the belief in the gospel of Jesus. So it highlights love at its core, the love of God, the love of our neighbors, the love of ourselves. Spiritists believe that Jesus was a pure spirit and the governor of our planet. He came here to teach us about love, to teach us about unconditional love. And even though it's been a little over 2,000 years and we're still trying to figure it out, like I said before, we have as long as we like. So JR, I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about Drumvalo. I can't really pronounce his last name, so I can't tell anybody his name. But if I recall correctly from some of the workshops that we've been to, he talks to us about Jesus.
It's kind of interesting. Many years ago, I was in a study group that read a book, The Flower of Life by Drumvalo Melchizedek. Melchizedek is supposedly a line of spirits. He came, he says, from the 13th dimension through the void to come to earth to help us ascend. He's written extensively, led many conferences and workshops that included meditation and rebirthing experiences. He also describes a history of the universe and of Earth that is very convex and convoluted. However, so interesting, many years ago, here he says Jesus is the governor of Earth, and just as we've learned, he helps with a intergalactic conference of spirits to help govern Earth. And I go, wow, I joined Spiritism, and then here's Jesus from Drumvalo Melchizedek, who's far away from Spiritism, and yet there's a common Jesus thread. I found that fascinating.
So let's ask him to say a few words about Jesus.
Jesus talked about the heart being the center and the secret to the relationship between God. And this is what the Hindus talked about in the Upanishad 6,000 years ago. And this is my belief, is what he was trying to tell us, is that in our heart is the secret. And if we go there, we don't, once we enter into that space, we don't need anybody else. We don't need any priests. We don't need anyone to tell us what the truth is, because that is the truth in there. And once we enter into that space, we slowly emerge with God, and we become one with the universe.
So I think that was beautiful, straight from the heart. And Spiritists believe the same thing. We don't need a priest. We don't need tools. We don't need magic wands. It's within us, within our heart. So, JR, I'd like to talk a little bit about Deepak Chopra because he is such an important person in as one of today's visionaries.
Deepak Chopra is a doctor. He's established healing centers all over the United States where they combine conventional medicine, integrative medicine, spiritual and emotional healing to help people get better. Besides authoring many books and speaking internationally, he's one of the deepest thinkers that I've come across. Wayne Dyer has a joke with Deepak Chopra. Let's face it, we all face life problems, and when Wayne Dyer had a problem that he couldn't resolve, he'd call Deepak. And Deepak would say, or his wife would say, no matter what the question was, he would tell Wayne Dyer, and Wayne Dyer would say the answer was, meditate, meditate. Meditate is a practice that helps our connection to the other side.
That's true. In fact, most of us should meditate every day. Actually, all of us should meditate every single day in the morning and before we go to bed. In the morning, we can connect with the blessing of a day, of the present, and at night, a thank you for the day. So let's ask Deepak Chopra to summarize very, very quickly about consciousness.
The real fundamental fact of the universe is not that it exists. Even more fundamental to the fact that the universe exists is the fact that we are aware that it exists. That it is our consciousness that makes the universe manifest.
So I'm not sure how much Spiritism agrees with that comment or if the wording is just a little bit different, but certainly we would like to hear it after the radio show. What do you think, JR?
Well, it's kind of interesting with Deepak. Deepak says when we're born, we're pretty well connected with everything, and then what happens, society fills us with stuff. Interference from society, our culture, our busy thoughts kind of fill our brains with information. He says in meditation, we quiet ourselves of those thoughts and better listen to the information that's given to us.
Okay. So, JR, in conclusion, would you agree with the following points? That it's important to have open-minded skepticism because our own experiences are our best teachers. That we must take 100% responsibility for our own growth and evolution. Nobody can do it for us. Knowledge is information. Wisdom is knowing and being. So, for example, if you know within your heart that when you see a little old lady, you help her cross the street, that's being, that's knowing. But if you help the little old lady because, oh man, everybody's watching me, if I don't help the little old lady, I'm going to look like a jerk, that's intellectual. That is not, you don't get brownie points for that one. Love is the opposite of fear. Love is harmony and balance, while fear creates a feeling of chaos within us. I'm sure many of you, when you feel fear or anger inside of you, you can't sleep. It's just like the energy is just moving crazy inside of your body. Every day, every lifetime, we have a new opportunity to evolve and to make better choices. We have free will. Let's use it wisely. Be kind and compassionate to those that are less evolved. They're learning too. Everyone will graduate one day. No child left behind. JR, do you have anything else to say?
You said it so beautifully. I would add, with the enlightenment and knowledge and experience that we have, also comes responsibility. Once we're enlightened, once we know right from wrong, it's our responsibility to use it to help ourselves and help others. The past is history, the future is a mystery, but the present is a gift. Remember, we're only human. We make mistakes. The only thing we have to be concerned with is try to be a little better each day so we can help each other and help ourselves.
Excellent advice, JR. This ends our interview for today. Thank you very much, JR, and to all the listeners of CLS-GFM radio station. Once again, love is always the answer.
Are there any questions? Oh, I forgot my coin phrase, sorry. And I always say love is the way home, sorry.